looking at photos from the second week of cut from Student Bonfire 2020. Um, Again, we're going to see half of the crews the other half of the crews from Bonfire. They've split the crews up, so half of the crews come out on Saturday, half the crews come out on Sunday, and we're going to see the other half of the crews. We looked at yesterday. Yesterday we looked at September 5th. Yesterday, today we're going to look at September 6th. This is the other half, core, pelt. There were again a few crews on September 5th who were sitting out for COVID exposure or precautionary for suspected COVID exposure. The same thing happened on Sunday. The crews are being very proactive about um, any potential exposures, and they're doing a really great job of keeping each other safe. But that means that there's less people out there doing work on any given day. So you're going to see that this is again this is an interesting time to be watching Bonfire and watching that process unfold and how everybody's handling themselves, the masks in the woods, and all these sorts of things. Um, so in any event, let's just jump right in. We are in the parking lot at Cut, the parking area. It also happens to be load site. So it's right up there at the front. It's a huge, beautiful load site, just so much space, lots of room to stack up trees. A really good thing to have this year when you're looking at the potential of having there's the possibility that you're not going to have your load crew for a few weekends, which has already proven itself to be true. Again, because of the COVID precautions, so you're going to need a lot of space to stack up the logs until somebody can get them out of there. And again, so many things this year just make it. Uh, you never want to have to work through a year like this, but if you had to, all of the things that are available this year are it just couldn't be more appropriate to this situation. So anyway, we're back to the huge load site. There's the senior truck pot on the trailer, as you see, labeled Irene. Um, and just waiting for everybody to show up and get the day started. Um, that quiet moment before it hits the fan. Now, in the meantime, out here in the load site, we're looking at the load crew for the day. Um, the generously donated New Holland tractor, and it's mech load. They're having to do a lot of mech load this year, which being a Walton guy, Walton loads. Uh, it's tough. I mentioned this yesterday. It's tough to watch a tractor do all this work, but you got to do what you got to do, and they're doing what they got to do, and tractors are loading trucks. However, I have been very pleased and proud to note that a tractor does not load a truck as fast as Walton does. So if there's a silver lining in all this, that's what it is. So a little bit more mech load stuff. I'm This is hard for me to understand how to shoot this. I'm still learning how to shoot this, and just because I haven't really this hardly ever happens, the mech load, and so um, uh, yeah, it's learning. I'm learning to how to shoot it the same as they're learning again how to do it. Um, so yeah, radio silence, dead air. Sorry about that. All right, so one of these is one of these. I think it's the morning. There's just a different quality to the work um, in the morning time that I don't know. Maybe because I was there. I feel like I see it. I don't know if it comes through, but I just looking at these photos, the work feels different when there's nobody else out there yet. Um, so I'm gonna one of these. We're gonna keep one of these, um, and then maybe in kind of juxtaposing those with what the exact same thing looks like in the middle of the day will be interesting later. Um, so the other one of the things that happens when you're loading the trucks, and again we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but when you're loading the trucks with a tractor, the pieces don't fall together quite so readily, and so uh, there's a lot of manual work that goes on the truck and getting all the pieces put back together in a way that all the logs will ride all the way to the site. And again, uh, Walton does it better than a tractor. Um, but that's what he's doing here. He's just trying to get all the lengths of log inside confined to the inside of the trailer and everything. Um, Again, a brown pot, wandering brown pot. Um, and I actually started the morning. Um, this morning, I actually started it trying to get some wedge shots. I believe from just from this axe, um, looking at the head of this axe, uh, I'm pretty sure that this is Raza, the head civilian. Just that's my from my memory. I'm pretty sure this is the head civilian's axe working on a tree here. I liked the light coming in right on that wedge, and I really felt like there was an opportunity here to get that. And he also has, again, if my memory serves, and I'm almost certain this is Raza Zaidi's axe, he's got a very polished axe. Um, it's a double bit, and so one side is uh, polished mirror shine. Um, and so between this light here and the light hitting the wedge and then just that polished axe, I was really hoping that I could get something. Um, this would all probably be easier if uh, if I just told them where I wanted them to put the axe head. Um, but yeah, I don't do that. So, um, gosh, when I look at these shots and how many shots like this there are, um, it it I am reminded that this would be so much easier if I just told them, hey, can you swing on the outside, please? Can you give me a good 90-degree on the inside where the light is, maybe? But this is, this he's got to swing where he's got to swing. He's got to shape the wedge the way he's got to shape the wedge. And unfortunately, I just have to sit here until, and maybe, hopefully, if he gets the axe where I would like him to get the axe, um, to get to, and again, this is interesting to me, but it's not the whole axe isn't in there, and the light is here. I want the light on the axe, um, and that's not. So I'm hoping that somewhere in all of these is one that does the trick, but that might not have happened with this one, unfortunately. Oh well, so close. Again, so close. If this was here, that'd be great, but it's not. Oh well. This will happen many thousands. Okay, this is better. This is this sort. Okay, I feel better now. So again, you see that same light. This is the same light, same wedge, same axe, and I have now confirmed this is Raza, but at a different angle. And yeah, somewhere in here is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm certain of it. Close, close. That's so close. Again, this one I like it, but I would prefer that I find one where I can get the entire axe head in there. That's it. I'm pretty sure that's it. Um, one of those two um, is the photo. And again, I'm this whole thing is this is what I'm doing the work, but I'm also this is what the process looks like every night, and I'm not gonna. I gotta send messaging with Bonfire at the same time. So again, I apologize for the dead air, but this is uh, this is what it looks like for 2 hours a night, 2 or 3 nights a week. Um, one of these two is it. I really think it's this one. It perfectly bisects the wedge there. There's the chips coming out. There's the axe is static at this point. I think this is the shot. Um, I'm really excited about that. The light is there. You see the person in there, the implied figure. Um, I don't know. This one's kind of cool too. This one is also kind of cool. Um, I don't. I gotta mark this one. I gotta mark this one. And in fact, I was just messaging Raza to see if he could jump on. And if he can jump on and tell me um, which one is the winner. I gosh bless. Out of those three, I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those three. I'm gonna. Gosh, yeah. So I'm gonna mark those three. I'm gonna come back later. We all got stuff to do. So okay. Uh, there's Raza swinging on the tree. This is the Lechner chief who is responsible for the conduct of this wedge. And you see that a little overexposed, more than a little overexposed. But I was here doing this, and then I immediately jump back to here, and you see here the wedge is almost through, and I was under the impression that this tree was going to fall any minute, and I didn't even bother. Again, I'm in manual mode all the time, and one of the things I could do better certainly is learn to get in the habit of adjusting a little bit faster. But um, you get better all the time. So hopefully, um, and sure enough, you see here the tree is starting to go. So there's a little bit more of a lean to it here than there is here. So it's starting to go. But I was interested in the Lechner chief, who was watching her senior red pot um, cut down this tree in her woods, and her supervision of that was again, to me, that was interesting. Not necessarily not necessarily something that happens a whole heck of a lot. Um, so one of these I'm definitely going to keep. Um, I like I like this angle as well. Um, I'm not sure if it's completely clear that um, I'm not sure if it's completely clear that this is the tree that she's in charge of, but I don't know. I don't know. I think it comes through. So I like that one, and we're gonna get one of these with Raza really coming through on the tree, and that will be, yep, that's the one. So there's those two, and I was able to get on top of a stump, and in getting on top of a stump, I was able to get the top of her pot. And this is something that you see. This is a common thing that happens. That you see this a lot. Uh, Bonfire has truly become, um, it is so many things, and uh, it's a leadership lab. It is an experience unlike any other experience you're ever going to have anywhere. Um, but it's a memorial, and um, and and this is just one of the signs of that. One of the symbols there is that there's always something that if you look hard enough, there's always something somewhere, um, in these neat and meaningful ways that um, I like this. I like this one. I think this is the I think this is the one. Um, this is the one. I like this one. I mean, obviously there's not a whole. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of difference in between all of them, but this is the one that I like. I like the way it frames, and it just these reminders here that the students are remembering something that in so many cases now happened before they were even born. Um, I like to catch those things and point them out. Here's We're still working on that tree. There's uh, this tree ended up, as you can see, there's a significant lean now. This tree should be down on the ground, but one of the other trees reached out and grabbed it on its way down, and held it up. And so Raza had to swing it through all the way to get it, and so there we see it went. But I mean, the trees out here are straight, sturdy, so tall, beautiful trees, post oaks. So nothing that you're going to use in home construction or furniture or anything like that. This is post oak is fantastic barbecue wood, and makes a good bonfire. But beautiful bonfire trees, and I should have. This is going to frustrate me. I should have framed this one a little bit better. I do like this one, but once Raza stepped in, I should have framed it a little bit better to get that action. But I think this one does an interesting job of representing the tree coming down while she watches it. So we're going with that one. Here's some downswinging in Legner's Woods. Um, you downswing to clean off the branches and the limbs, and um, get it to a log, get it to what is supposed to go up on stack. So nothing is going on the truck that hasn't been turned into a log. All this stuff gets cleaned up in the woods, and this is part of what that looks like. Um, the downswing. And this is an upperclassman thing. This is not freshmen are not allowed to do this. Um, and this is a very senior upperclassman who's working on this downswing, a dead, as they say. Um, and I think we will use one of those. Um, I believe now. No, we're still in Lechner Woods. We're still, and this was fun. This was great. So in the background, you'll note someone swinging on the tree. Um, and if you look closely, there's yellow suspenders there. This is the there's the good view. This is the yellow pot for Lechner. And the yellow pot for Lechner carries around the substantial crowbar, which is very useful in moving logs around, leveraging things, uh, scraping at things, whatever. It's a very, very useful tool. And it is also a tool that you're supposed to take good care of and make sure that nothing happens to this very important tool. One of the things that can happen to a very important tool like this is that past members of your crew, in this case, at least one dead brown pot, can find your very important tool that you're supposed to be keeping track of and taking very good care of, and they can pound it down into the ground while you're cutting a tree. So I definitely wanted to catch that, and this is one of those. This is one of those photos that it is likely that very few people will know what in the heck is happening here. But it's funny nonetheless to the people that do know what's going on. This is your typical bonfire good bull happening. Yellow pot hard at work, doing his job, focused, doing everything he's supposed to do, except for remembering where he put his crowbar. So we're keeping one of those. So at this point, the yellow pot is setting the back wedge on this tree. Um, when you um, when you cut the tree, you cut it to you cut your front wedge. That's where the tree is supposed to fall. Then you turn around, you go to the back wedge, and you cut it through the rest of the way. Once the front wedge is set, no one is allowed anywhere in front of the tree. Um, that is called the fall path. And for obvious reasons, hopefully, that's not a place where anybody is allowed. But here he is setting the back wedge as his fellow chief looks on. Um, one of these, one of these will be a keeper. And then we've got the chief is the yellow pot has now moved on at this point. I believe he has discovered that his crowbar is buried in the ground. They did eventually get that crowbar all the way down, um, all the way down to the dirt, and um, I think at this point he's trying to get it back out. Meanwhile, other people are working while he's learning how important it is to remember where he puts his crowbar. So, like again, of course, I like the axe going into the tree and the action and the chip spraying and all that. But I do try to find uh, the interest in the coming off of the swing, preparing, winding up for the next swing, dealing with the recoil of the axe, whatever it is. So I do like this one. This is going to be the one here. The focus on the wedge, getting ready for your next. I don't know. Some people might disagree, but this to me, I like this one. This is also interesting, but I'm going to go with this one. Now we're jumping over to the core woods. Um, this is one of a member of the band um, working on a substantial front wedge. This is a sizable front wedge. Um, you never want to fall a tree with just the front wedge. You do want a front and a back wedge, but in some cases it is ideal to get the front wedge uh, very, very big. And obviously here they've gotten a front wedge that is very, very big. And one of these, I'm certain is going to do the trick. Something that will happen when I'm going through the photos is I might, and this might be one of those cases, I'm not sure, but I might find one where the recoil and the preparation for the next swing is interesting. And if I was on the fence about a previous one, do I get, again with the Lechner that we just saw before, um, I was interested in, jumping back to the Lechner, I was interested in this photo. I was interested in the recoil and the winding back up again and coming back in for another swing. But then I was also interested in this and the intensity and making and starting the swing. And sometimes what will happen, and it might happen here, is if I'm on the fence and then I find that there's another photo that the recoil and the reaction to a just completed swing is interesting to me, and there was one before that I was on the fence about, I might go back and pick that other one where she's actually swinging, because I'm getting that recoil shot here, and so maybe I can use that other shot from above. Um, I've got them both marked, and then I'm just going to go back. I'm just going to go back later afterwards when I'm doing my final pass and decide for sure which one I'm going to go with. But I thought I remembered. Getting interesting ones. I mean, I do like. I do like this one. Um, this one is also interesting to me. That the chips, the blur and the motion of the chips being produced in that moment. Um, I've marked that one. I've marked this one, and again, these are going to be things I'm going to go back later and see. Um, on my final pass. Now um, here I'm. That was a band guide. The band and the core were actually together in the woods, in the same woods, um, um, and this was really interesting to me in that some of these young men back here, I had gotten word that some of these young men were the sons of people who built Bonfire um, back in the 90s, and so I was actually in a bit of a hurry to get back there so that I could see, um, so I could meet these guys um, and get some shots of them doing some work. So um, this is those woods, um, that outfit and related. Um, and so in these shots, what's really, and again, this is something that that you can't necessarily really make it clear in the photos, but when the people who have experienced it and who know what's going on, to be able to see those connections and connect those generations and see that um, this is something that it's not just crossing Aggie generations. It's not just Bonfire one year to the next, um, which is what we often tend to think of Bonfire generations as. But this is actually crossing family generations, and uh, and in fact, I'm messaging right now one of the families of these guys in the core woods. So just to let them know that we're we're to their woods. Um, Now this is the butt pot for Squadron 17, 16. Squadron 16 is they're a sentimental favorite of mine. Um, Squadron 17 is it's an outstanding outfit. They've got a long history, um, and I got very close to Squadron 16 um, over the years, and um, uh, there's one former member of Squadron 16 that I still keep in touch with to this day, and there's always this question of how Squadron 16 doing. There's just an outstanding outfit, um, uh, and I had the privilege of speaking with them on on one of their very important nights where they go to um, uh, the Bonfire Memorial. Squadron 16 is where Timothy Curley came from, and they hold his memory um, every year. It's a very important, almost an identity for the outfit still to this day, and it's been over 20 years, and um, so it's really I enjoy seeing Squadron 16 out there doing work. Um, and it makes me happy that they're still so squared away. They're also called, and I've never, I should have probably asked at some point. They're also called the Charlie Browns because of um, their zigzag yellow and black. Um, I should probably ask them if they like that or if that's a bad thing. Um, but for all these years, that's just something that people have called them. Um, but in any event, this is the butt pot swinging on the tree, setting the back wedge. Um, uh, Again, this is just me. I'm a turd, but it's the wedge is a little bit high. You see, when a wedge is high, you see how much is carried in the shoulders in order to keep that axe where it needs to be on that wedge. And his legs are straight, and um, he's as upright as he can get and still maintain his balance. And he's still having to put so much into the shoulders and arms to keep that axe up. So that's just me being back in my day. Back in my day, we had the wedges down at our ankles, but um, and it's good. It's good to still get these shots and kind of capture, so that you can look back in time and review the shots from before and say, look at how high the wedges got, look at how low the wedges got, and 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 just kind of illustrate that. And we did again. We talked about it a little bit last night, but there was last year when there was a concerted effort to lower the wedges. We were able to look back at old photos and say, if you're nervous or not sure about lowering the wedges, it's been done before, and look at what that looks like. Um, that said, the wedges are definitely I think this is an exception, um, but one of these, and this is again, this is me being frustrated. I would have a clear pick already. This is me just being frustrated with myself that I'm losing his freaking foot down here. That's driving me nuts. Uh, and so when I'm culling these photos, I'm not just trying to find the photo that that works, but I'm also paying very close attention to what did I do wrong, and how can I not be such an idiot next time. Um, that's See, I'm okay. I'm more okay with this. It's really hard sometimes to get a shot where you get everything, the feet and all of this stuff in the frame. You end up losing sometimes your focus and you're framing the way you want it when you try to get that stuff in. So I'm okay with this. This feels better than this does. when you've got everything else and you're just missing some toes. That's really frustrating. And it, I don't want anything to distract. I don't want anybody to be like, oh man, I wish there were some damn toes in this. So, anyway, note to self, do better. Um, you see, though, you see what happens. Again, being in manual mode, um, the exposures on these are the same. The settings, everything on these two, exactly the same. But what's happened is that the tree was providing shade to the shot. The tree was providing some cover, and then that cover went away. So, um, if I were to use any of these, and I do like that. I always like that moment of somebody gassed, somebody who's who's put some effort in and who is enjoying even just a brief second of breath, watching their tree come down. And so that's why I'm going to go with this one. There's all these moments that when you've built Bonfire, um, when you've built Bonfire, when you've experienced it, you've been there. You've been in this moment. The tree coming down, watching it, waiting for that thud so that you can wildcat, um, enjoying that breath of fresh air. Um, and so, some of these are to help other people understand what Bonfire is like, um, to help people understand that everything is coming down with an axe, that there's actual axe work that's going on, that, you cut this much, now you're cutting this. There's a system to it. You're not just wailing away on the tree. There's a process, and to help people understand that is important in these photos. But also, this this to me is for this shot like this is for the people who did build it, and just to rekindle and kind of spark that memory of, yeah, I was there. I've done that before. Um, and it's I feel like I've succeeded in that sometimes, in that, um, uh, and I've told this story before, but I had somebody look at some photos and try and tell me that, this was 86 and this was so and so, and I told him this. No, it's like, it's not 86. That's 8 or 6 months ago. And no, this is this guy, and he was a real character, and I love that guy. I hated that guy, whatever it was, and he was arguing with me about it. And I told him I was there. I took the picture. This is from a couple years ago, and that was a fun exchange to have. That somebody could look at a photo so recently, and it was so real, and so like the experience that they remembered, that the photo the photo was exactly what their memory was of something decades before. Um, so another one of the objectives. Now I like things like this. Um, this is a young freshman in L1 who he's being instructed by the butt pot from Squadron 16. He's paying attention. He's soaking it in. I like that. And again, I'm going to flag that one, and we'll see. Um, we'll see, because I could see here that there's other L1 ones, but um, L1, it has been some years since L1 has been out, and it was motivating for me to see the L1 guys out, and to see how much time they put into squaring away their pots, and squaring away how they represented themselves in the woods, and their preparation to get out there and do the work and do it right. Um, And so, yeah, I'm definitely when a new crew or when a crew comes back who hasn't been out in a while, or a new crew arrives, there's you'll note in since a pelt has come back, I have paid a lot of attention to a pelt, and I spend a lot of time trying to shoot them, and I spend more time, uh, proportionately more time on trying to get their insignia and their name and a pelt out there, because it's interesting to me, and I want people to know and notice um, this new thing that's back out there. And again, a pelt is an old one, but they came back. They disappeared and then they came back. And L1 is another example. I would not be surprised. Uh, you can fully expect that there's going to be more of L1 this year. It's always motivating. Um, it's always motivating to see people come back and come back motivated. So, in any event, we're back to the same woods, but here's the band. The band always hangs together. Members of the Aggie band. Um, I like to capture the focus sometimes where um, I don't necessarily need you to see the acts. I don't need you to see what's happening. In fact, sometimes I don't want you to see what's happening, but I want you to what what is here in this moment is somebody who's focused and somebody who's intent on killing this tree. And one of these is going to be it. So I'm going to flag a couple of those. And again, a little bit different than last night. Some of these I'm just flagging and moving on, and then I'm going to go back later. We're not going to beat a dead tree. Um, I said this yesterday. It's still true. It's true now. When I was looking at the photos from Kruger Woods, the, the core is now in the woods on September 6th, in the woods that Kruger was in on September 5th. And I said yesterday when we were looking at the Kruger Woods that the light in Kruger Woods, now the core woods, is just so good. And we might just I might just have to ask them to put everybody on rotation so that everybody can get a chance to go have their photo taken in good light. But I really liked, and I'm joking by the way, we're not going to do that Hollywood crap. But I really liked the light back here, and again, even just on that one shot, I wish I could use more of those. I think, but don't want to give anybody too much spotlight. This is the butt pot watching and watching the wedge on um, that same tree that we were just looking at, and the butt pot is going to um, the butt pot is going to make sure that as this individual works on the wedge, that they are keeping the wedge the way the wedge needs to be. If you cut too much on the inside or the outside of the wedge, you can cause the tree to go in a different direction, and obviously that's not ideal. So the butt pot is, and I wish I'd have gotten this one a fraction of a second sooner. Um, but that's what the butt pot's doing down there, is trying to keep his eye on that wedge and provide guidance as as the wedge is being swung on. So now something that you'll note again, it, you see there's this young man. He's got his mask. It's not on his face now. Uh, Meanwhile, there's other people back here with their masks on. So they've done a very good job of balancing. It's about health. It's about safety, and the masks are an important protocol. But when you're swinging an axe and when you're really getting after it, you got to be able to breathe. And so when you're doing work or when you're recovering from work, be it hauling trees, branches, whatever it is, swinging an axe, um, you could take your mask off and do that. And then as soon as you've recovered, you get your mask back on, unless you can social distance and maybe sit back in the back and drag some brush around. Um, but and also if you are communicating and you have to speak and people have to understand what you're saying, um, that can be cause to take the mask off your face so that you can communicate and provide clear instructions. Um, there, obviously, I spent a lot of shots on this one scene, and I think one of these is what I spent all this time for. So, I might have mentioned, there's, and again, some of these you just hope that you get the timing right, and just the difference of just a fraction of a second. This is setting up to be so cool, and just that fraction of a second, instead of catching the axe, making the spray as it cuts into the tree, it actually turns into kind of a confusing shot in that the axe is up here. It's not in contact with the tree anymore, and here's the chips. So at first blush, that can be kind of like what's happening here. Sometimes that's interesting, but when I've got something else like this, um, I'm going to go with this instead. But that's why, so 6 over the course of 2 days, um, the 5th and the 6th, out of those, out of that entire weekend, I might walk out with 100, maybe. Um, I used to think that it was better to take less photos, um, and have a higher ratio. And uh, one of the nice things about, my father's a photographer, and um, I do like to bounce things off of him and see what he thinks about the direction we're going. I'm just seeing a message on YouTube that there's, maybe it's breaking up or something. So, um, you bear with me. We'll see. I don't know if you can see it or not. I'm not watching it live. Uh, in any event, I do like to commiserate with my dad, and I remember having that conversation about, Dad, I'm really trying to get it so that, I get the shot, and I take as few shots as possible to get the shot. And his message was, why the hell are you doing that? Data is cheap. Take take the shots. Take a lot of shots if you have to, and then find the one that works. Um, so uh, I have, over the years, I've grown more and more comfortable with taking more and more photos, and then winding up possibly with uh, more things that end up in the bin, and that's okay. So, yeah, as we saw up there, there's probably 50 or 60 photos up in that setup there that uh, that are not, and out of that entire 50 or 60 photos, I might have one or two. Uh, that's just something that it's taken me some time to learn how to do. So again, we're back to L1, um, and there's uh, uh, more other core there, um, but this is just moving brush into a brush pile, and I say brush. This is obviously a limb. But this is just when you downswing and you turn an axe, you turn a log into a tree into a log, you end up with these branches. You pile them up into brush piles. And what's fun for me is to when they're putting these brush piles together, this reminds me of 2002, and when we were building Bonfire again for the first time after 99, and we weren't stacking it, we were building brush pile, a big brush pile, which actually turned into 3 brush piles, which from above was meant to look like Bevo with the horn sawed off. And uh, it didn't occur to anybody at the time that drones were not a thing yet, so it ended up uh, kind of hard to tell that our our big fire was Bevo with the horn sawed off, but uh, that's what it was in our hearts. In any event, some of these brush piles out here now these days, um, that they're just putting together from the scraps and leftovers and limbs and branches and yopon on the ground, um, that are in the way of what they're trying to do. Some of that quote trash is a bigger pile than the piles that we built when we started Bonfire up again in 2002. So I do enjoy watching those piles grow, and looking at this and seeing that this work that they're doing that is tedious and bothersome and something that is in between what they're doing and what they want to do, which is to cut down a tree for a bonfire stack. Um, their tedium is what the entire process was in 2002, and I enjoy that. I'm really proud of them. Um, I'm really proud that their brush piles are, in some cases, bigger than our entire thing was. So I am definitely gonna flag one of these, and I'm gonna come back later, and I'm gonna revisit it later, before we publish the set from this weekend, because in one of these, I know it's a good representation of buddies in an outfit, uh, getting stuff done. And I do like the class years on the back. These are freshmen, um, freshmen doing freshman things. Again, here's the band. Uh, this tree, I believe this tree is about to go, if memory serves, which would explain why I'm shooting it from so far away. There we go. There we go. Oh man. Sometimes, right? Sometimes there's, you end up putting up photos that are, well, I want, this is not exactly what I wanted, but I want this young man, I want this Aggie to be able to see this and share it, and I want this crew to be able to see that their work was recognized or whatever it is. But then there's some photos that are just like, yes, this is all day, every day. I'm showing everybody this photo, and this is it. I love this one. These are the ones I kind of dwell on sometimes. This is so cool. So the tree is going. Um, you see, um, it's it's on its way. You see the green pot, observing this tree about to come down. You see the motivation here. You see his buddies. You see other core members watching. Here comes another one. I love that shot. I'm really happy with that one. I kind of almost don't think I want to look at any others. I don't. I don't want to talk myself out of that one, I think. So somehow, I don't know how, somehow I was able to, here I am, broad daylight, shooting this, the light hitting him square on, and then I turn around to get this about to happen, and somehow I was able to adjust, again being in manual mode. Somehow I was able to adjust and get the light that I needed. I did not start out that way. Absolutely did not start out that way, but I'm so glad that I made the adjustment. Dumb luck. Um, so sometimes trees hang, sometimes they get stuck, and that's when you call a brown pot. with a motor axe to cut the tree down. And I believe that's the tree that we just watched. I believe that tree got hung. I, um, I think. Brown pots are the only ones that can carry chainsaws. Um, and you see rigged up with the chaps and everything. Um, um, I'll keep one of those for posterity's sake. So brown pots aren't just cutting down trees that might be hung for safety reasons. Brown pots will also cut down dead trees, and this is definitely a dead tree. And so you clear everybody out of the area, and the brown pot comes in and takes out a dead tree. You don't want to waste your time on it. You don't want to waste an axe on it. You don't want to waste any energy on it. A dead tree is an unreliable tree. You don't know how it's going to fall and when it's going to fall. You don't know what your axe is going to do when you go into it. It might, go into some softwood. It might bounce off some hard, dried up stuff. They're just a waste. And so the brown pots go in and they cut those down with the chainsaw. Um, and so that's what he's doing here, getting rid of a dead one. Likewise, you cannot use a dead tree on stack. And one of the things that happens in the off season, so the red pots spend the entire off season trying to hunt down a good cut site. One of the many things that they do in the off season. And one of the strategies that they've been able to do recently because of Lamar advertising and how generous Lamar advertising has been, they've been able to put up signs on the highway. And in the past, those signs were necessary to communicate that Bonfire was burning and get excited for it and get motivated and everything. But in recent years, as awareness of Bonfire has grown, and people's expectation that, yeah, we know roughly when it's going to happen every year because it's attached close to the football game again. Now, the luxury of those signs, you don't have to use them to market the event. People know about it. So they've been using them sometimes to market land, the request for land. Let us come and we'll cut down your trees and you won't have to pay us for it. Just let us keep the trees. And it's this trade of clearing your land in exchange for the logs to build Bonfire with. And so what you end up getting in the years that they do use those signs generously donated by Lamar Advertising, um, is you get you see a bunch of emails and calls from people saying, hey, I've got 5 trees, I've got 10 trees, I've got um, some trees I cut down a few months ago, and they're laying on the ground, and you can have those. And those are, I'm sure that they're appreciated. Um, it's just that the operation, first of all, you got to be able to go in and take hundreds of trees to get the whole place set up and get the infrastructure right. And you can't take any trees that somebody else has cut down. Um, it's not just a pride thing. It's not just an ownership thing, but it is also a safety thing. So um, not only are they not going to use a dead tree like this, they're not going to use a tree that anybody else has cut down. But like I said, I at least appreciate how motivated people are when they see Bonfire needs wood. Um, I appreciate how motivated people are to try and help and solve that problem. Uh, in any event, moving on, more chainsaw stuff. Same dead tree, same brown pot. I do like a cloud of sawdust. And there's some where I look back later and I ask myself, why did I take so many of of this? I can understand taking a lot of an axe because there's just so many different places in space that axe might be. But a chainsaw, I don't know. Obviously, this is cool to me. Um, this is better. I like this. The tree to pieces coming off and just carnage coming out of the sky. That's why we're gonna go with that one. But and you see why you don't want anybody swinging on this tree. You got the concern of what it's going to do to your axe here, but look at this. This tree's just falling, and look at all of the pieces of tree that are just shredding off of the top of this tree. You're swinging on that at the bottom with an axe, and you knock one of those things loose. You're going to have a bad day. Um, all right, so moving on, more axe work. Terrible foot. So this is something that I'm really struggling with this year, and this isn't the first time it's happened, but this is a good example. I'm wearing glasses, and I'm also wearing a mask, and I'm breathing into the mask, and the breath is coming out of the top of my mask and hitting my glasses, and I can't see jack. So I just got to put the camera up sometimes when something is happening, and I just got to hope that I'm getting my focus right, but I can't see a damn thing. Everything is fuzzy, and yeah. So this is a perfect case in point of what's happening here. Um, this tree is wonderfully in focus. A wonderful job on this thing that doesn't matter back here, but this is out of focus, and that's me just the hell. Oh man, these masks. I get it. Safety. It's a great, but this is going to take some getting used to. But at least I got this one right. One wonders if so much breath is coming out of your mask and into your face. How good is it? Anyway, that's just me being salty about some of these photos being out of focus. Um, so we see the brown pot. Brown pots actually know how to use acoustic chainsaws as well. So um, here's a brown pot using an acoustic chainsaw. And there it goes. And again, good grief. So frustrating. So frustrating. Uh, Stupid COVID. So I like getting the wedge in the tree as it's coming off, but sometimes it's hard. It's hard to get that and do it right. You want the texture on the of the wood and everything. So you're trying to shoot it where you freeze it and you can get all that texture and all that clarity. But then what it ends up looking like sometimes is, oh, that's a stump that's sitting on top of a stump, and you lose that it is a tree that is actually moving and falling. Um, so it's that it's that balance that I kind of obsess about sometimes. But I think this kind of does the trick. Um, a tree is not going to be resting this way, so your mind kind of completes the thought that this is a tree that's falling. Believe it or not, we're almost there. So we're back in the Lechner Woods. Um, on this day, the Lechner Woods was up closer towards the front. Here, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes it's interesting to see a something like this, just something as simple as an axe laying up against the tree. And here we're back in a pelt. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm very interested in a pelt being another one of those crews that's an old Army crew that disappeared for a long time, and to see them come back, and they've come back very strong. So I enjoy spending time in a pelt woods. And this is, I mean, yeah, you're cutting down trees sometimes, and you're doing stuff that's recognizable as bonfire stuff, but sometimes you're swinging a hatchet at a piece of yopon in the ground so that somebody doesn't trip over it. And these are the things that I try to capture as well. Just a reminder that it's not all cool axes and trees falling. There's so much stuff that's happening all the time, like cutting little yopon things that are in the ground that are in between a log that's in the back and coming back out to the front, and that's something that somebody could trip on it. So somebody has to sit there and wail on it with a hatchet. This is an example of, like I said, I'd like to get photos of the pelt pots, um, because they weren't seen for so long. Um, Again, downswinging in a pelt. I find myself doing this a lot. Um, I like the way it looks, but I also like how I can take these photos and and hide better taking these photos than I can other ways. And that is shooting somebody down swinging through a pile of brush. So I like the halfway concealed quality. I like how you can't see everything, but I also like that I can sneak up on somebody better through a pile of brush. There, uh, there have been other folks that uh, have photographed participants. Madeline McGuire is one, um, who have come out and photographed and done a really good job. And you see, there's a difference. There's a real discernible difference in what they're seeing, and how they're seeing it, and how I am. I'm almost, I just, I have I'm not good with taking photos that somebody knows that their photo is being taken, or acknowledges that their photo is being taken. Um, and you look at Madeline McGuire's work, and a lot of what she does, uh, they know their photos being taken, and it works for her, and she does a really good job at that, and she makes that look really cool and identifiable, and it's got uh, it, it's got a personal quality, and it makes a personal connection that she can do, and she can see it that way, and I can't. And I kind of recoil a lot um, from that. So the exact same photos, I mean, hell, we could take the exact same photo at the exact same time, and somehow the two of us, I'm gonna have this photo that is detached and maybe almost impersonal, um, and she can have the same photo, and you're connected to that. Uh, you're connected to that person, and that person knows you're there, and it's just interesting the way that works out. My daughter shoots too, and she does the same thing. Um, just the quality of her photos and her connection is very personal. Um, but I don't know what it is. Maybe I need to go do a shrink or something. I don't know. But I like not, and I'm just drawn to not being part of the scene. Um, here's the butt pot in the core woods. So there's a number of butt pots. Um, uh, every outfit, most every outfit has a butt pot. Um, and and this was 5 or 6 years. I think it might have been 2014. Maybe it's 2014. Um, that 2014-15, that the core kind of got together and said, the core faces challenges that other people don't. The dorms and things don't have, and the core kind of looked at those challenges and said, how can we adapt and overcome, as the core has to conduct their business in a different way that other people do. The Corps' numbers are impacted by different activities that the Corps has to do during the week and on the weekends, outfit photos, outfit activities, and things that the dorm guys and the dorm people don't have to do. And how do they consolidate their numbers, and how do they come out and still get work done and lead big groups of people when whole entire outfits can be called away to do something that they didn't used to have to do. And the Corps came up with this really good idea of basically cutting the Corps in half and organizing under, still maintaining the butt pots for the outfits, but having two butt pots above that, higher level, that could make these super crews of multiple outfits. And the first year they did that was the first year in a long time that the Corps of Cadets ended up earning Centerpole, and that was not coincidental. And so you see, this is one of those senior butt pot lines, and you see there's a number of names on the side of that pot. It's established now, and it's a great way of dealing with the challenges that the Corps has, and I've been very impressed with that solution. And uh, it's really motivating to see. So this is one of those. I don't want to call it a senior butt pot, but this is one of those core level butt pots, starting or working on a wedge. Um, this would be an outfit level butt pot, for H1 or some hard chargers. The core cannot. There's not running now. I don't know if that's a COVID thing or what that is. I'm not even going to speculate, but uh, running is not a thing right now, which I know has to be hard for H1, because that's pretty much what H1 does, is run and run and run. And they do a lot of it, and they're damn good at it. Uh, these guys are tough, just year in, year out. So there's your H1 butt pot, down swinging. Getting checked in. I should mention the two senior, again, core level butt pots, those top butt pots, um, they have on their pots. So you got H1, and that's the butt pot for H1, and the Squadron 6 teen butt pot, and the Squadron 6 butt pot, and you got these butt pots, but you also have, so these other two, these super butt pots. On their pots, they are NSW and CLH for Nathan Scott West and Christopher Lee Hurd, two members of the Corps of Cadets who passed away in '99. So again, just another one of those reminders um, of of a time again before a lot of these motivated young Aggies were born. And it's nice to see that. Um, it's nice to see that memory. Um, so you saw some of the photos yesterday. It was very muddy back in the Kruger Woods, and this is working through that mess, uh, carrying a log through that mess to get it to the skids. And so the tractor is going to come back and get that. Now, there's been a lot of tractors going into the woods and actually pulling the logs um, directly out of the woods. Um, more of that this year than other years. Really more of that this year than ever. Um, but in cases like this, this is one of the few trees that was carried out over the weekend uh, out of necessity because of the large mud area that would have prevented a tractor from getting back there to that log. But with the opportunity to catch a log being carried few and far between this year, I did want to get this mud and this slop and this being the reason that the log is being carried. This was a bit of an adventure. A tree that looked like for a short time it was going to fall in one direction wound up falling in a completely different direction. And while I generally try to just observe and um, and tell stories or horse around or whatever, I try not to get into the middle of things too much. But this was a thing. The tree went in a different direction, and you see the barbed wire fence back here, and the tree was coming down on the fence. So um, I did kind of interject myself a little bit, and I tried to keep taking the photos. Um, and fortunately, they were able to get a handle on the situation so that I could take the photos and not be involved with the situation and just take the pictures. This is the junior red pot. The tree fell towards the fence. It got stuck and hung up, fortunately, before it landed on the fence. And so the junior red pot went and coaxed the tree down onto his shoulder so that he could carry it out before it landed on the fence. And that would have resulted in that junior red pot and his buddies having to spend time fixing a fence. Um, the landowner of this land, he does have cattle, and that's part of why most people end up asking Bonfire to come out and clear their land is so that they can have more land to run cattle. Point being, the fences are important on every land that you're on every year, no matter what. The fences are extremely important, and you can get yourself in a good bit of trouble if you do something like this and accidentally risk crashing a fence when you know the reason why you're there is because somebody has cattle. So this junior red pot did an outstanding job taking care of the fence, and at a certain point I did jump in and help tug the tree out the rest of the way and got involved just a little bit. I didn't really do too much, but I was able to get back and finish taking the photos. This is one of the dead brown pots. So current brown pot, dead brown pot. Um, Walking with a purpose. I enjoy a good walk with a purpose. We're going with that one. There's actually a light at the end of this tunnel. Not too many more to go, and then I will only be 1 week behind until this weekend, and then I'll be back to 2 weeks behind again. But this is September 5th and 6th. I still have another 12, I can't remember, 12 to 1500 photos from last weekend. So a lot yet to go. I think the winner out of all these is this one. I just like this one. I think the others are unnecessary after you've looked at that one. This is hiking a log. This is K2 hiking a log. My old high school buddy went to K2, and again, K2 is another one of those outfits that I was always motivated to hang around with K2 when I was on campus as a student, and it's just good guys, crazy guys every year, just outstanding, highly motivated, squared away, crazy guys. So it's nice to see K2 out in the woods always. Um, I don't know. We get one of these. I'd like to see if I can get one of these that a hike that makes sense, that is explaining a little bit visually what's going on, that isn't confusing as hell. I don't know, I have to go back and revisit those. Again, I mentioned it yesterday. Sometimes it feels like cheating to take a photo of just the back of somebody's shirt, but the shirts that Aggies wear, they're just sometimes they're just so on point that it's nice to take a picture of it. It's like a shortcut, a cheat towards making your point. Um, it's nice that Aggies wear such direct T-shirts. I think this was my last stop. A pelt on the way out. Um, Nice photo bomb, Ace. Way to go. Um, I believe. I'm not sure. This might have even been my last tree that I visited. But you see the stripe. This is a freshman, or a freshman or somebody who's out there for the first time has to wear a stripe just to indicate that this is my first time out, kind of thing. First year, you keep up with that stripe all year so that people know all year that if you're in a bind and you need help and you have a question and you really need to answer, um, don't ask the person with this stripe. But also, you know, when you talk about what you build Bonfire for, and every generation, this is one of those things that just everybody knows. You talk about what is Bonfire for, and it's not for a football game. It's not for yeah, any. It's not for the fire. It's certainly not for burning it. Burning it is why you uh, burning it is so that you can build it. You don't build it so that you can burn it. And uh, so that's not what it is. And so when you ask people what is Bonfire for, you can get a lot of answers. But one of the things that everybody respects every year, year in, year out, Bonfire is for the freshmen. So yeah, you make them wear a stripe of tape on their legs so that you know who the freshmen or the first year participants are. Um, but it's not just so that don't ask this person a question if you need a challenging answer, but it's also so it's a reminder. This individual is who Bonfire is for. Their experience, um, their opportunities. Uh, so make sure that as a leader, as a fellow participant, um, when you see a stripe, make sure that you're providing the best experience that you can, because it is, for all the things that Bonfire is for, it is most importantly for the freshmen and their experience. Another one of the Appelt crew chiefs. Um, I do remember feeling like one of these was one I was I was happy with and interested in. And it might be this one. Yeah, I think that one was it. So, and that's it. That is that is all of the photos reviewed and culled from um, from the second day of second cut, and that makes um, 55. We have 55 photos from the second day. Again, going to examples like these. Again, these were shots of Raza in on that first tree of the day. And so this is an example. Yeah, there's 55 shots for the day, but out of these three, I'm only going to pick one, unfortunately. So all said and done, we might end up with just 50 shots for the day. And the same, it was about the same for yesterday, 50, 55 shots for what we looked at yesterday. So for the entire September 5th and 6th, um, we're going to walk away with maybe 100 shots that hopefully tell a good story from the second week of cut for Bonfire 2020. I'm going to go through, um, make my final selections here on all of these, um, maybe make a couple adjustments on a couple of them. Again, I try and keep that to a minimum. If I got it, I got it, and if I didn't, then unfortunately I didn't, and do a better job next time. But you know, there maybe will be some tuning, and hopefully later tonight. I don't even know what time it is anymore. Yeah, so maybe later tonight or tomorrow morning, um, all of these will be published, and then all we'll have to do is go through another 12 to 1500 photos from last weekend, and then um, uh, we've got this weekend coming up. So, um, an outstanding year, a motivating year, a very different year, a very interesting year to look at, a year that I think that by the time I figure out how to shoot this year and what is different and what we need to catch, by the time I figure it out, this whole thing will be over and we're going to be back to business as usual by next year. So, um, an interesting thing to work through. Thanks for joining me on this. And follow Dion C Gallery on Twitter, Dion C Gallery on Facebook. Your support on Patreon is greatly appreciated, makes this possible. And follow Student Bonfire on Twitter, Student Bonfire on Facebook, and also for Student Bonfire, your support of the organization is invaluable. So visit studentbonfire.com/support to directly support Student Bonfire, who needs it every year. And again, Patreon. Look for Dion C. McInnes Gallery on Patreon if you want to support that there. And of course, click the link, subscribe, and tune back in for more sessions like this. Thanks a bunch. Giga Maggies, build the hell out of Bonfire.